So if you want to maximize your damage in the first descendant, first you need to understand how damage works. So damage is broken out into 4 color-coded sections. The first one is going to be white, and that's just your base damage. The second one is going to be green, and that is your base damage multiplied by 10%. And that is applied only if you match the damage type. So if I go into the wave of light here, I'd under critical hit damage, you're going to see something that says crush, pierce, or burst, right? So these are the weak point types. So if you align your weak point type to the type of the enemy, then you will be able to get that 10% on the base stat. And the easiest way to understand is if you go into any colossi, you'll be able to see this, right? So if you look at this colossi, you see that there's all of these weak points, and each weak point is aligning to a different type of weapon of weak point type, right? This is burst, this is crush. So normal enemies have this as well. If it's a normal enemy and they have a weak point type, anytime you shoot them, you are not going to see the white. You're only going to see the green. Okay. So the third type is yellow. Yellow is going to be the weak point damage. So there's weak point type, and that's that crush, pierce, and burst. And weak point damage is actually the damage that you apply to the gun. So you have your regular weak point damage that the gun has if you go into the gun specs, but then you have the additional boost that you have on the mods. Right here is weak point damage plus 40%, weak point damage plus 35%. So whatever your weak point damage boost is going to be multiplied by the white base plus potentially the green if it's lined up to the weak point type. You multiply that number by whatever your weak point damage multiplier is, and you'll get yellow. The last one is going to be orange. So orange is going to be all of those numbers multiplied by the critical hit damage. So your critical hit damage is the last thing that is applied. So when you're building your gun, you want to build from the bottom up. If you're trying to optimize for the greatest output, you want to make sure that you optimize for firearm attack damage, optimize for weak point damage, because that's ultimately what's going to be multiplied by that final critical hit. And that's if you're building into critical hit. If not, then I would still recommend you build into weak point damage, even if you're going into firearm attack, because ultimately that is what's going to be multiplied for your final output to maximize your damage, especially when you're fighting against colossi. Let me know if this helps. If you have any other questions, let's talk about it in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.